Hello there. So I have an idea about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz between Iraq and Iran and the US and the Iraqi dinar and the revaluation and all of that other good stuff. So I haven't heard anybody talk about it. Let's just get right into it. Okay, so let's start here, which is when Trump says that he does not want Nouri al-Maliki to be reinstated as the prime minister of Iraq. He says, I'm hearing the great country of Iraq might make a very bad choice by reinstalling Nouri al-Maliki as prime minister. Last time Maliki was in power, the country descended into poverty and total chaos. This should not be allowed to happen again because of his insane policies and ideologies. If elected, the United States of America will no longer help Iraq. And if we are not there to help, Iraq has zero chances of success, prosperity, and freedom. Make Iraq great again. Okay. Why is that important? Let's go over here. We're going to bounce around a little bit. And I'm sure everybody already knows all of this, and we'll get to the final conclusion quickly. I won't make this a crazy long video. Iraqi banks use US-created system to funnel funds into Iran. That's the reason why Trump does not want a Iranian or Irani focused or backed politician to be installed into Iraq, because it'll be more of like the, I don't know, we'll call it CIA plant, because I'm pretty sure I've heard that Maliki was a CIA plant to begin with. So we really don't want that to happen again. And the money that Obama dropped into Iran, the billions of dollars in pallets of cash, USD, is a drop in the bucket compared to what Maliki was able to do and other Iranian aligned people were able to do over the past 2 decades in Iraq and Iran, by taking advantage of the street rate currency of the dinar, the street rate, and then also the established exchange rate, which had some kind of a discrepancy, and so maybe they're taking advantage of that, or some other way. But basically, this article goes into, I think it's this article, it might be the other one, but these basically say the same thing. The bilateral effect of currency exchange between Iraq and Iran. Preventing the smuggling of dollars from Iraq to Iran is one of Baghdad's greatest challenges, largely driven by pro-Iranian proxies. However, Prime Minister Shia al-Sudani's determination to restore the economy by cracking down on smuggling could determine its future. I think it's this article where it kind of goes, yeah. So this guy, Iraqi banker Ali Ghulam, at his home in London in July. Okay, so this guy is an Iraqi banker. This is an interesting thing. And this is the reasoning why it took so long for a lot of the banks in Iraq to get up to the standard that was required in order for them to be like compliant for this new stuff that's about to happen. Al-Ghulam was the undisputed dollar king of Iraq for almost a decade. His 3 Baghdad banks wired tens of billions of dollars in that time outside the country, ostensibly for car parts, furniture, and other imports. He was one of the biggest operators in an ad hoc banking system set up around the world 2 decades ago under the United States occupation that gave the Federal Reserve Bank of New York a key role in processing Iraq's international transactions. Years later, when the Fed finally began looking closely at where the money was going, it shut him down almost overnight. Okay, so this goes on, and it gives you a little bit of a history lesson as to why this guy is not running banks in Iraq anymore. We're talking about how many? Like 3 banks? So the point that I'm trying to make is that all of Iraq's banks were having issues in the past, and it took them all a very long time to get up to speed, because the Iraqi people weren't benefiting from this, but there was a lot of corruption that was happening at the top of these banks, and they were taking advantage of some kind of a discrepancy between street rate and the official exchange rate, or they were doing things like what he was doing by buying car parts and furniture, but sending tens of billions of dollars. Now, don't tell me that the Fed only found out and they were just like, yeah, we will put trust and faith in this guy to do the perfect thing. And oh my gosh, who would have known? He's actually doing something bad and taking money out of Iraq and funneling it into Iran. Like, with the amount of crossover and Iranian-backed politicians and business leaders that are in Iraq, it only makes sense that a lot of the money that is in Iran right now is as a result of the discrepancy, the bad business practices, the funneling, the smuggling, the laundering, whatever you want to call it. And they were just, the U.S. basically closed their eyes, just like, I don't know. It just seems to me like this whole thing is kind of a conspiracy a little bit. I'm into conspiracies anyways, but it does kind of seem to me like the U.S. just found out, like, they were innocent the whole time and they're just operating off of good faith and they thought they were going to be doing the right thing. And yeah, whatever. So I found that just by Googling CBI Al-Alaq ties to Iran. And so let's go to my next little Google thing. Al-Maliki planted by CIA. There was a FOIA request here, but I didn't really find too much, and I didn't dig into it too much as well. I just heard that Al-Maliki was in fact like installed, and whenever you like think about people being installed in another government, you kind of have to think about the CIA, in my opinion, because they're international, FBI is domestic, so CIA would have their sticky fingers all over that, taking advantage of whatever they can do to destabilize and, kind of mess things up. So look over here, not over there. Well, I'm looking everywhere right now, and that's where we're going to kind of get into this whole thing as well. So that's the Trump thing. That's the FOIA request. So let's get into this first. This is an interesting thing. By July 2026, Iraq's central bank, the CBI, has set a deadline in July 2026 for eliminating cash transactions across all government institutions. This ambitious initiative aims to modernize the financial system and transaction to a fully digital payment ecosystem, including the introduction of a digital dollar. The CBI plans to implement this change through a national instant payment system and a unified government payment gateway, which will enhance the financial transparency and reduce reliance on cash. This whole thing will stop. It'll turn money into crypto, basically, in Iraq. And to further sort of talk about this even more, Iraq has gone the way of smart cities. And Trump has actually announced that there's going to be like 15 or so modern cities that are going to be built in the United States. And if you kind of look at like the Sun Valley corridor, there's been like plans for like mega cities to hold like 30 million people in that area. North Dallas is having a lot of like local pockets pop up, but it's not really like large infrastructure. There's just, it does kind of look like that America might be going that way as well. I know that a lot of people are against that, myself included, but it's going that way for Iraq. I wanted to sort of bring that up because they're going in that direction. They're going in the direction of digital dollars, smart cities, and everything being transparent and trackable. And when you have a system that is as corrupt as it has been over the years, it does make sense. And if you look at that from an American point of view, or looking at America through the same lens of what they're trying to stop in Iraq, it kind of seems like it makes a lot of sense here in America too. So there's a lot of corruption at the top, and there's a lot of hidden figures, a lot of shadow figures that nobody even knows about. So let's get into the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, we're here in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, we're here in the Strait of Hormuz. And this is where the U.S. blockade is. I think this is, it's over here in the Pakistani, that's the northern region, and then the southern region of the blockade is like here in Sur, Oman. So they don't really have to worry too much about Iran, but they've got their ships lined up here. Iran just has gunboats here in these islands, Iraq Island and this big one, I suppose, as well. And they're just blocking. You guys already know about all that stuff. So what is this doing? Because before, I found something interesting. When they started sending ships, and before the U.S. blockade happened, they were not allowing any unsanctioned vessels through. They were only allowing the Black Fleet, the sanctioned vessels that were doing nefarious activities, sending and receiving, questionable products, going and doing transactions outside of the USD with their oil, and a lot of that stuff was going into China and I don't know where else. But what's going on in shipping did a good video about it. It wasn't his latest video, but it was the video before that. So anyways, let's just take that into account. Now that the US blockade is here, none of the sanctioned vessels are allowed to go through. The only vessels that are allowed to go through, Trump is allowing the Chinese vessels to go through. Obviously, that trade war, tariff war, geopolitical conflict with China should be avoided as much as possible. And in reality, I think that Xi Jinping probably wants the same thing in terms of the waters to be safer and not these sanctioned pirate vessels to be able to just travel around in Southeast Asian waters and things like that. So now the only vessels that have gotten through have been the Chinese vessels. Everything else, there's a bunch of anchored vessels here, and then over 1,000 still here in the Persian Gulf. Why is all of this relevant? Well, let's look at where Iraq is. Iraq, Iran. Over the past 2 decades, 20 years, these bankers have been taking advantage of this discrepancy rate, smuggling dollars and moving it over into Iran. This has allowed Iran to build their gunboats and their fast moving boats. So these are the gunboats anyways. This is what Iran has had the ability to have built, and it's funny that they have the Iranian flags because a lot of the gunboats, when you see them in international waters, they have the Turkish flag because they're made in Turkey. So, yeah, Turkey will make anything for you. But anyways, this has allowed Iran to build up its naval gunboat fleet for this purpose, because they have been preparing for this for some time, which again stinks of the CIA, in my opinion. But the Iraqi dinar has been funneled over into Iran at 1310. And the discrepancy between 1310 and 1500 street rate, this rate, that rate, whatever, is small. So Iran has been able to build these boats with a small discrepancy in value. And they've over the past 20 years, they've been making money, buying things, doing this and that. Well, it would make sense to me that the U.S. would have some way of tracking and knowing how much money has made its way over to Iran. There's supposed to be 200 trillion dinars in circulation. How much of that has been is off market or has been moved over into Iran? They probably have some way of figuring that out. So just like they do with the USD and stuff like that. So they probably have some way of figuring that out. So now, the U.S. having this blockade here at the Strait of Hormuz, not allowing sanctioned vessels to come through, is really cutting off their monetary supply. They don't have the ability to make money anymore. So I don't know how much money a day. It's $500 million or something like that. In total GDP a day, maybe. So without the Iranians being able to send out their oil that they have in their oil ports that they have in this area around here, then they're not able to make any money because the U.S. is stopping them. So even if China is buying their money, or even if China is buying their oil from Iran, the number of vessels coming to and from it's 8 a day at most during this conflict we've seen, and as little as 0. So we really there's not a lot of transactions happening. So the point that I'm trying to make is that Iran is burning up their Iraqi dinar at 1310 because they have to keep the system going. So whatever transactions they have to do in order to keep this going, from a regime standpoint, they have been dipping into the coffers of dinar, and they too probably have been anticipating the revaluation of the dinar. However, the Strait of Hormuz officially being blocked has put a massive dent in their ability to generate income. And so they're going to start selling their wealth to continue operating or continue operations as usual. And so that means buying their drones from China, anti-aircraft, things like that. Anything from Russia, America doesn't have anything to do with the Caspian Sea. And also through Turkey, Iran can get stuff from Ukraine as well, like drones. So they can buy this way and that way. And it's possible, maybe not through Afghanistan, but it's possible to possibly get some things from China via land, because the United States is definitely not going to be allowing anything other than what is allowed to go through the Strait of Hormuz to go through. So if they're looking at Chinese shipments, they're going to be looking at the manifestos, and I do believe that the relationship between the United States and China is optimistic. Like, I don't think that they're trying to do anything to stop or escalate anything with China. I don't think that the United States is anyway. I don't think that Trump is specifically. You could almost separate Trump from the United States because he's doing his own thing, and it almost seems like the rest of the U.S. politics are doing something completely different. But that's the point that I wanted to make. I think that whatever money has been funneled over to Iran from Iraq has, like, it was a lot, but it's not going to make Iran rich because they have to spend it because the U.S. is blockading them. So they have no income now, and they need to spend money. The government does. So I think that this is actually, the longer this goes on, the more desperate we're going to see the Iranians. And I think that it's going to start coming out like right now they're playing it cool. But I kind of think that at some point, the Iranian politicians are going to come out like on fire, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, and just just way over the top, because they might not be saying anything different because they don't want to reveal the fact that they're, cutting their own knees, like, kneecapping themselves or whatever, because they have been anticipating a big wealth transfer as well. And now they're not able to do that because they're dipping into that Iraqi dinar. So I think that they're probably going to become more and more desperate and vicious. And the escalation is going to kind of, maybe it'll go like they'll start lashing out more and doing unprovoked attacks. So we've seen that in the past, but I think that it's possible. So anyways, that's the point that I wanted to make. That was the idea, is the ties between the political systems and the financial institutions and everything that's going on between Iraq and Iran. I mean, it's very strong. It's very well and strong. I mean, there were Iranian militias that were attacking other parts of the Middle East within Iraqi borders. So yeah, the relationship between Iraq and Iran is very strong still. So at some point, that is going to possibly be highlighted even more. But in the meantime, I think that this blockade is actually starving Iran from their ability to sustain, and they're going to have to start dipping into their coffers. And I don't know. They'd probably get rid of their gold before they got rid of their dinar. I don't know. It's possible. But I think that they're going to start getting desperate because there's so much dinar in Iran. And this is only going to help investors because it'll effectively isolate the dinar back into the central bank of Iraq. I'm sure that whoever they're buying the products to fund their war machine from, they may not be spending it in dinar, but they have to convert that into dinar. So there's like a USD conversion or there's a crypto conversion, but basically that dinar ends back up in the CBI. They might do dinar transactions with like Russia or Ukraine, but I don't think that, like, Russia's desperate. China might not necessarily want to speculate. And so, yeah, Russia's almost bankrupt. There's somebody within Russia said that that by the end of 2026, they're not going to have any more money to fund anything. So Russia needs cash. And so if they're selling their stuff to Iran, they're going to want it in crypto or cash of some kind, but not dinar, not some, sanctioned currency or exotic currency anyways. But that's the idea, is Iran getting starved here at the Strait. The longer it lasts, the better it is for dinar investors. The longer it lasts, it's going to end back up in the CBI and is going to get locked up, and it's going to isolate the number of people who have Dinar, and it's going to potentially take that revaluation opportunity out of the hands of Iran. So that's what I had for you guys today. So I hope that this was able to bring you guys a new fresh perspective on what's actually going on here, as a Dinar investor, because I know that a lot of people are really just wanting it to happen. But maybe if this blockade were to happen for a couple of more weeks or something, I know that in July 2026 is when everything is supposed to go digital in Iraq. So it's just an idea, but let me know if you guys have any other perspectives or thoughts or things like that, and I'd be happy to chat with you. I love chatting and comments and stuff like that, and it would be fun to chat in my own comments. But regardless, I'm wishing you guys a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.